Greetings and welcome to our Sunday night podcast. You are the miracle. I am Cheyenne Kramer. This is my better half,
Don Kramer. Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a great day. We are.
Absolutely. And, we've been talking for a while now about the topic of suicide, and you're going to hear a whole lot more about it over the next few weeks, because part of our goal is to start to normalize this conversation. There's too many people who are feeling huge amounts of guilt and shame and remorse and all kinds of things that are just not helping to bring the awareness to this topic that we need to bring. And you've probably all heard September 21st is a big day, is it not?
Definitely a big day.
Absolutely. And we just got news today that on the evening of August 9th at 7 p.m., we are going to actually have a benefit concert as well, done by Mr. Chris Hendricks, a local musician who has been playing in schools all over North Carolina to help young people rethink their value and their worth, which we know is a huge component of the suicide story. So tonight we are most honored to have a wonderful guest with us tonight. And Miss Maurita McCorkle is going to also be one of our panelists on September 21st. So if you don't get to hear all about her tonight, we hope you'll come out in September. But this is being recorded. There's no excuse for not listening to the recording. So welcome, Maurita. We're so happy to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
Good deal. Well, please tell our viewers a little bit about your story. I know that you've been a foster mom for a while, but I tell people how long and what brought you to being involved with working with our foster youth.
Sure, I'd love to. So I started foster parenting about 25 years ago, which I'm not even 28 years old. So how can that be, right?
That started early. I got it.
I did. I started very early. I actually started when I was 30 years old. I was going through a very difficult time of, I was still single at the time and just really feeling unfulfilled, even though I was very successful, worked a really good job, had a beautiful house and roommates and great neighbors, the whole 9 yards. And I was just really feeling like I was missing something. And so I went through a week of fasting. And to make a long story short, the Lord spoke to me very strongly about bringing boatloads of kids into my life. So the exact words was, I'm going to bring boatloads of kids into your life, and greater is the impact you will have on them than any that could come from your womb. And then he led me to Isaiah 54, which is single barren woman, you who never bore a child. And I lost it. God soon started to open up doors for me to foster parent through an organization that basically provided support to single mothers. Actually, the majority were single moms that were struggling at the time. They were trying to keep the kids out of the foster care system. So through that, I developed a lot of relationships with different families and still actually have relationships with some of those families that I helped them to keep their kids out of foster care. And that led me into doing foster care full time. I started with 4 amazing kids. Actually, I'll tell a really awesome testimony. I had 4 kids under the age of 7. I was a mom with these 4 kids. And it took me 2 hours every morning to take them to their schools, their daycares, their prospective places. And then I had one that I had to go pick them all up at because they were nice enough to go pick them all up at the other places. But I had those kids for about 9 months and I reunified them with their mother. Well, about a month and a half ago, I received a call on Facebook from one of the girls who is now 25 years old. And they stayed with their mom. She's now got a psychiatry degree. Her sister actually just had a birthday yesterday. She is a designer. The brother is an architect trying to go to school for architecture, and the youngest is graduating high school this year. So it was really amazing after 18 years of not even seeing from them or hearing from them, I should say, or seeing them, that I reunified with them. So it was exciting. So yeah, I've had over 80 kids. My saying is I built my family out of my heart, not my womb. I never had any kids of my own. I fostered as a single mom for 17 years. And then 7 years ago, I married my amazing husband, Jim. And he has been along on the journey with me as well. And the majority of the kids that we now serve are young adults that have aged out of foster care and are put on this street. And they really struggle. We have a lot of struggles with suicide in our home.
Oh my goodness. Well, and I know you lost one of your children to suicide. Are you willing to share a little bit about that?
Yes, I'm more than willing to share a little bit about that. So my pre-pre, she was such a light in my life. I never thought that I would consider adoption, but I received a call one day asking if I would consider a 12-year-old that was looking for a forever home. That she had been in foster care since she was 5, so 7 years she had been in foster care and was really struggling with finding a family that she fit with. She had been in numerous placements. And so I opened my door to her one weekend and she fit me like Cinderella's shoes, only fit Cinderella. She was just she loved my family, fell in love with my family, fell in love with my church. I can't even begin to tell you how much I loved Priscilla. I felt like she was the perfect fit for me. And we got to that 90 days. You have to have the child in your home for 90 days before you can actually start the adoption process. And so it had just hit just before the 90 days, and we found out that her father, who lived in Arizona, had decided that he wanted his daughters back. So Priscilla had a sister that was also in a pre-adoptive home. And again, they'd been away from them for 7 years, never had any interaction or anything with their father for 7 years. And our state made the decision to award him back those kids. And less than a year later, Priscilla committed suicide because she was so unhappy being back in that environment.
Oh my goodness.
It's very hard.
If you could wave a magic wand here in the state and change any one thing that you think would serve our young people better, do you have a thought about what that would be?
It would be listening to the kids. Most definitely listening to the kids. Priscilla expressed very strongly that she didn't want to go back. And so did her sister. Neither one of them wanted to return to that environment. And the social workers didn't listen to them at all. Both of them were so happy with the placements they were in, thriving and doing so well. And nobody would listen to them at all.
That is so sad. And I know that just tore you up in all kinds of ways. How many of the kids that you fostered have you actually adopted?
So in my heart or on paper?
Either,
That's
both.
the question. In my heart, many. If you could see my wall, I should have actually made it so my camera faced my wall in my living room, because I have a big thing then there that says family, a little bit of crazy and a whole lot of love. And then it's got pictures of all the different kids that I've had through the years. I have on paper adopted 2 kids. I adopted 2 kids. They were 14 and 16 at the time that I adopted them. They're both special needs individuals. Their name's Kiera and Tyler. And they came into my life about 2 to 3 years prior to my adopting them. I just didn't want to see them face the system like I had seen some of the other kids face the system. And they're now 27 and 29. I can't believe I'm saying that. But yeah, we just celebrated about 14 years. We actually have a really good testimony with them as well. We're actually in the process of reunifying a relationship with their mother after 14 years. We got to see their mother for the first time in 13 years on Christmas Eve. So we actually just spent a little bit of time with her today. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, and that's a beautiful part of your story too, because anytime that I think you have felt like it was safe for the children to be reunified with their birth family, you've been a cheerleader for that. Is that a good assumption?
Yes, definitely. I think it's very important for the kids, regardless of what they've come from, to be able to have relationships with their family. Now, there are definitely circumstances where it's not safe for them to have a relationship with their family. And I understand that. There's definitely some of our kids that are abused. But if you look at statistics, statistics show 70% of our kids are actually put in foster care because of neglect and poverty. And we need to create a system that helps to support those families, not take kids away from them. And 30% of our kids actually come from abusive homes where we need to protect them. And those are the kids that I try to keep more of a protection around them. But the majority of kids that I've had have been ones that we've maintained relationships with families.
Wow. Wow. Beautiful stories. And I know you're carrying a pretty big vision for what you would like to be able to create to serve more of these young people. Are you willing to share something about that?
Yeah, sure. My heart, so I have a nonprofit called In Our Shoes. I help support young adults that have aged out of foster care. I started this journey with my daughter Jody. I'll start with sharing her story. Jody came to me when she was 18, and her story is so heartbreaking as well. She had 2 kids while she was in foster care. On her 18th birthday, she arrived home to find her bags packed and her kids' bags not. And she was forced to leave her home. And forced to leave her kids behind. She went to a foster home that didn't work out, and then she came to me. And about 3 months after she had been with me, I had to take her to court. They did what they called a CARS agreement at that time, where the young adult had to either be in school or working for a period of time. And every month. And Jody, we had a very hard time just motivating her to get out of bed. And so they discontinued her CARS agreement. We showed up at my house that evening to find the social worker standing at my door and had removed the other kids from my home and told me I had the option of either keeping Jody or getting the other kids back. And so we were forced to put Jody into a homeless shelter, which is just, it's wrong. Jody should have been able to stay in my home under, and me add her as an adult in my home. I know that now that I've learned more about the system, but I didn't know it then. And I want to protect more of our kids from that kind of treatment. I want to be a place where kids feel safe. And that's what I've been doing. And we've done it in our home. We've had up to 8 kids in our home.
Wow.
At one time. Yeah. Holidays are always fun. We have kids on couches and kids on floors, but that's just a wonderful part of holiday, right? And we go through different seasons of it, but currently we house 6 young adults in our home. Since my husband and I have been married, we've had 28 kids that have lived with us. And we've only been married 7 years. So I have a hero husband. You guys have met him. But when I first went on the journey of In Our Shoes, I really wanted to build like a big campus. Like I want 100 kids and just save the lives of 100 kids. But as I've gotten to know them, I've realized that these kids really want to feel more normalized. They want to feel like they're a part of our community, a part of society, and be accepted for who they are. And that's really what my goal is. I want to be able to, bring awareness to our community through speaking to our community about what these young adults face and helping them to understand these kids didn't make the decision to be in foster care. They're a product of what their family has been through. And I mean, I even have kids who lost their parents before they were teenagers. And I mean, they get treated so badly, but that's a whole nother story I could go down. But yeah, we need to do better at providing support to these kids. 65% of kids that age out of foster care end up in homeless shelters or prison within their first year. And 50% end up pregnant. And most of those kids end up back into the foster care system. So we've got to break a cycle. We've created this foster care system that says we're going to take care of your kids. And we're just not doing a good job of it, in my opinion. But the system knows that too. So there's things that the system's trying to change too. But I think there's a lot more that we could do as a community.
Oh, no doubt. I haven't had a chance to check out the new movie that's out, but I'm betting you know something
Oh.
about it. Is that called Sound of Hope?
Yes, I went to go see it. I was very apprehensive about that movie to begin with. I was apprehensive about how they were going to depict the birth parents, to be honest. But
Ah,
the story did a fantastic job. They actually shared the 70-30% statistic in the movie. And then
mm,
they focused on the 30% really. They focused on the kids that were abused and not wanted and that kind of thing. They didn't focus on the birth families and the issues that the kids came into care. They actually dealt with the trauma that the kids bring in and how they helped them through that trauma.
gotcha, gotcha. Awesome. Well, that's good. I'm glad that you felt comfortable with how they did depict it. We haven't seen it yet, but I was really curious about it. And I know you lost the one daughter, but I'm under the impression that you've had some other experiences. I mean, is there anything that people who are watching can do based on your experiences to help some of these young people who are thinking about some very tragic ideas?
I think some of the biggest things that we can do to help these kids through these moments is not to react emotionally at the time that they're in an emotional state and they need stability. And a lot of times that emotional state is directed at us. I recently wrote a book, and that book states a lot of information about the different states they go to. One of my chapters is called Love in the Face of Anger. Yeah, it's when our love is not enough. And I talk about the different emotions that they depict and how that sometimes gets pushed or portrayed towards us or even somebody in the community. Police officers is another one that I talk about, and how they can better support by being that stability and being that sound place, that sound voice, rather than the voice of emotion, and helping them to get stabilized. I think that's the first thing, is to get them stabilized so they're not in an emotional state. I mean, you think about it too, this age group, that's the part of the brain that is developed, is your emotional part of the brain. The logical part of your brain isn't developed yet. And so they're still going through, they're still in that fight or flight mode, and that's what they follow, is that fight or flight. They don't follow the logic that they, oh, you know what, maybe I should react this way rather than that way. They're just so wrapped up in their emotions. And so just being a stable place and not allowing yourself to react. I can give a story. One of my daughters was in a very hard, heavy place. She was out with her sisters and her boyfriend, and she called me and said, "Miss Maurita, come and get us right now. My boyfriend is doing this, 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 and this, and we need you to come." So I went to the place that they were at, and she was curled up in a field and just yelling at me like, "You're no good. You don't care about us. You don't do anything." And so it wasn't necessarily her boyfriend that was in that state. It was she that was in that state in that moment. And I just simply stood there and listened to her trying to deal with her boyfriend at the same time, um, and listened to her and let her vet on me, do what she needed to do.
Mhm.
And eventually, she got in my car, calmed down, cried all the way home, and we were fine. And but she was at that stage. She was like, "I'm just gonna go kill myself. I don't care. Just leave me here. Nobody cares about me. Nobody loves me. Just leave me alone. You don't love me." And it was the years of rejection that she has had through the foster care system that has caused this. She has been in numerous homes. She's been in group homes, and it's all because all she ever wanted to do was rescue her mother. That's all she ever wanted to do. She loved her mother so much, but yet they separated her from her mother, and she all she wanted to do was be a part of her life with her mom and protect her mom because she saw the bad things that were happening to her mom.
Mhm.
And and then she started blaming herself, and she still does to this day. She still struggles. She lives with me. But she still struggles with that because she feels like she has to save the world. Now, she lost her mother. Her mother passed away from drug overdose a few years ago,
Mm.
and this has made her struggle even harder over the last couple of years.
bet. I bet. Well, and I know I had the pleasure of reading your book, and I definitely recommend it. It is such an incredible story of love, and also just the actions that need to go behind love. And what I keep hearing you say now, and what I heard you say in the book, is that empathetic listening is probably one of the greatest things that anybody can do to help in these situations. And I know, you've become an incredible listener. You talked about law enforcement being able to listen. You've talked about the state listening. You've talked about neighbors and community people listening.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other advice that you can give to people on how we can help more of these young people be able to get to being good, stable, self-sustaining adults in this very crazy world we live in?
I think the biggest advice is to not be afraid of them. They can be harsh and they can be very hard, but they're very lost. And sometimes it just needs an embrace. They just need an embrace. They just need somebody to come alongside them and say that they're committed. My son Jeffrey is one that I would say is an example of that. Jeffrey grew up in the foster care system from the age of 3. He was never adopted. He was in over 100 homes and group homes between the age of 3 and 18. And I met Jeffrey when he was about 26 years old and didn't really know him that well at all, but he put a suicide note on Facebook. And I immediately called him, listened to what he had to say, realized that he was at risk. I called police and I went to where he was at. So I met there with the police. That changed my relationship with Jeffrey. That opened my relationship. He moved into the home with my husband and I for about a year, and his life has completely changed. He came home one day because he had gone to his brother's wedding. His brother had been adopted and he hadn't. And at the wedding, they asked for the family to come up for a photo. And Jeffrey was looked at and said, "Oh, we didn't mean you." And he came home and just bawled in my lap. He was so heartbroken. And my husband and I looked at him that day and said, "You know what, Jeffrey, you are our son and we want to adopt you." And so he's one of those kids that I've adopted and is forever my son. We stood up in his wedding. His life has changed so much since that moment. His brother has even said, "Thank you for loving Jeffrey the way you do." And that's what these kids need, is they just need love. They need somebody, but sometimes, like my book says, you have to realize that love isn't enough. It takes a lot more than love to help with these kids. And we're going to get stepped on. We're going to get stomped on. We're going to get called names. We're going to get cussed at. But sometimes they do that because they love you and they know that you're safe. And so helping to understand that too. It's hard, and you got to have a backbone, or you have to have people that you can really lean on, that you can say, "This is happening to me right now. Can I just cry on your shoulder, because I can't cry on their shoulder."
That's what I was going to say. So who is your support structure? I mean, you have Jim now, which is a wonderful thing, but do you have another support structure around you?
I do. I have some really good friends that I'm able to go to when I'm in those moments and really need to have some help. They have an ear that doesn't judge the individuals, because most of them know the individuals that live in my home or the individuals I'm talking about, and they don't judge them. They don't judge them at all, and that's a really important to have.
Very important.
Mhm.
Absolutely. You have any question for Miss Maurita?
Well, I think people really need to know how to get in touch with you.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. My website is inourshoesinc.org, and you can reach me at Maurita at inourshoesinc.org. Um, and I'm really trying to get out and speak. So if you have any organizations I can speak to about foster parenting, I would love to share my heart and my vision and help our community better understand, whether it be civic organizations, churches, whomever you would like. I would love to come and speak and share my heart.
And
Well,
where can they get your book?
Yeah.
Amazon. I self-published through Amazon. So it's under Maurita McCorkle, When Our Love Is Not Enough.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to having you with us. What
And
were you
I
going to say?
think our listeners better tune in and let her know, or
Absolutely.
she can, speak to people. Speak to groups.
Absolutely. If you like what we've been talking about here tonight, please comment. We've had several comments here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
You've had some folks, Victoria and Irene have been here. Our friend Crystal Bodie Smith has been by. So we definitely have some folks who've been watching. If you think this is an important topic, like this, share this, comment on this. Oh, and even our friend Doc Morris has stopped by. So that is awesome. Oh, and there's your hubby. He's here too.
Hi, hubby. Hey, Jim.
Okay.
It's awesome. It's awesome. So we look forward to having you on our panel discussion September 21st. And come out and support our concert on August 9th. Check in with me and Dawn, or find Maurita online. If you want more information, we'll be putting more information out about it within the next few days. So we thank everybody for being here, and God bless you all. And we will see you again next week on You Are the Miracle. We thank you, Maurita, for being a miracle to so many foster kids.
Thank you, special lady.
That's it.
Thank you.
Bye,
I appreciate
everybody.
it.
Have a great
Bye-bye.